Hi, this is Brian Burton. I'm here to show you how to make movies with game engines. This is being recorded for the Computer Simulation and Gaming Conference. So I'm the Associate Professor of Digital Entertainment. I've been making games and doing real-time CGI, which is what this project is utilizing for the last 15 years. I'm the lead faculty for a top-ranked game design program, and my favorite area of research is learning in virtual environments and playing with real-time CGI. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or follow me on YouTube. I'll have these contact information again at the end of the presentation if you would like to follow along there. So this presentation was inspired by Mathieu Muller's Unity Unite Austin 2017 presentation, where he did a Unity for Film walkthrough that was quite inspiring. He in the space of 30 minutes, he created a really cool walkthrough using the Atom character and creating a scene from scratch. So we're going to go through a similar process to what Mathieu Muller did. I've shown this many times to my students. As of the Unity version 2019.2, there were major changes compared to what Mathieu Muller did with Unity version 2017. So we're going to walk through all those changes, all the things that have happened since then, and hopefully you'll find it inspiring for creating your own film masterpieces. Now, I should say before we jump into this too quickly that Unity and the Unreal game engine both have become widely used for creating shorts and films for special effects, doing all kinds of great animation techniques with the Unity game engine. So use this as inspiration. I've been requiring projects like this of my students now for the last several years. As of Unity version 2019.2, it has gotten so much easier to create these. The workflow has changed dramatically, as I said, from Unity 2017. Now, to jump into this project, you are going to need a few things to get started. Mathieu Muller, during his presentation, popped these up for all of like 3 seconds, so you had to pause the video and figure out what it is you're going to need. These are all now located in slightly different places than they were when for the Unity 2017. 2019 has integrated, especially if you're using the high definition rendering pipeline. Many of these are now part of the package system rather than having to be downloaded from the internet to be able to use it. And I think I forgot one object in here that you're going to need. But I'll talk about that in just a second as we start loading these from the internet. Okay, then let's get busy. We're going to create a new project. This is going to be a high definition RP. A lot of the things that we're wanting to use for this, such as our recorder, Cinemachine, tools like that, they are primarily developed for the high definition RP. This is going to be a new project, so let's specify that. Oh, and it's trying to start this as a much higher version than what I want. I want to create a new project that is based on the 2019.2.21 version. There we go. So 2019.2.21, 2019.3, which is the latest version at the time of this recording, has made a lot of changes to the high definition rendering pipeline, so I don't want to get into that for this demonstration. 2019.2.21 is very stable. I've been using that and done a lot of these projects with my students over the last year, so we're going to use that. I'm going to call this project Make Movie, and it's going into my Unity projects folder. There we go. Select that folder and we'll create it. And as this is creating, We're going to be installing a number of plugins through our package manager. As we're walking through this process, though, I will speed up the download and installations as it's doing its background work. So I'll pause this now as it's initializing the project template, and we'll jump in just a sec. I should say that generally when I'm teaching this to a class, this is done over the walkthrough that I do with my students generally happens over 3 different class periods. So it takes 3 to 4 hours to go through it. The downloads themselves and getting all the package managers set up usually takes a full class period as students are following along in real time. But because I'm going to be pausing that, we're going to go through an hour and a half worth of material here in about less than 5 minutes. Okay, that finally loaded up. First thing we need to do is add some things through our package manager. This is one of those changes between 2017 when Mathieu Muller was doing his presentation and the current version, 2019 version 2. So I'm going to jump over here to package manager, and by default you're in project here. These are the things that are inside the project by default. We've already got Unity Timeline, which is one of the tools that we need to be able to do this project. We're also going to need, and I'm going to change this to all packages, we're going to need Cinemachine. So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll find Cinemachine, and that needs to be installed in the project. It's not too large, just 12 meg. And doesn't need to be downloaded or anything, just needs to be installed. Okay, so we've already got 2 of them, Timeline and Cinemachine. The last thing that we need to add is Unity Recorder. Now, Unity Recorder does not show, oh, well, there it is, Unity Recorder right there. If it's not showing, it is a preview version of Unity Recorder. So if it's not showing currently, make sure you've got checked the Show Preview Packages. And if you do that, then you'll be able to install Unity Recorder. And that's actually the tool that we will be using to record the final cinematic masterpiece of our project. So just click the install button so that that is added to our project, and we should be ready to go here in just a second with downloading a few things from the asset store. Okay, we've got that. So now we're ready to leave the package manager and go to our asset store. If your asset store is not currently showing on your screen, you can go to Window and Asset Store that way, and we're just going to download a few things from the asset store. Now, unfortunately, it looks like the Atom character asset has been depreciated. You can still find it out there, but our Atom character itself is no longer just by default available. You may have to look for depreciated assets to be able to download it. Of course, any asset will work for what we're doing on this. You don't have to use the Atom specific, any rigged humanoid character will work for what we're doing. So if you've got your own humanoid character, you're fine with doing that for the project, but I like to use the Atom character set since it kind of launched the whole real-time CGI using Unity. And if you haven't seen the Atom Unity Atom shorts, they are on YouTube, and you should take a look at what can be done using the Unity tool set for this. The most recent real-time CGI produced with Unity is the Heretic. Take a look at that as well. I haven't checked to see if the Heretic's available for import into projects like we were doing with Atom. That'd be really cool to work with. Okay, after you've got a character humanoid that can walk around in the scene, we got 2 more things to grab real quick. Standard assets, which was again originally made for Unity 2017. So we're going to import that, or download if you haven't already downloaded it, and import that into your scene. It looks like the Heretics artwork is not yet available on the Unity Asset Store. It would be really cool if they did make that available, but I have no idea if they will or not. So we'll import standard assets for our project, and then we just have one more thing to download, and that was the thing that I left off the initial slide, and that is default playables. But it's a real boring graphic, so you're not missing anything. As soon as this pulls in, we'll download the default playables. Okay, that's pulled in, so here's default playables, and we'll import that. Again, all of these were produced by Unity, so they're free downloads. You don't have to spend any money on any of this. Makes a nice, easy way to get started with learning what the basics of how to do these various scenes are. Did that already import? That was fast. Okay, so jumping back to my scene, I'm not going to use any of the example assets that were loaded by default. They're not going to be used, so I'm just going to delete that real quick. I'm also not going to use the current scene post. Well, I'm going to leave the post processes up there for now, so that we can look at those again later. So we're ready to get started. Now, right off the bat, what we've done so far on just getting everything configured and set up, I usually spend the first day of class making sure that that is all covered. So now we're on to class 2 session. The first thing that you're going to see if you've loaded all of this in is that we've got an error at the very bottom here, and if we go to console, you're going to see that we've got a error on the system. Let me jump to that. And that error is located in the Atom character pack. It's a post-processing problem. There's a conflict, and it's probably the reason why this has been depreciated on the asset store. It's a very simple fix, and I'm going to show you how to fix that very quickly. So if you go to the Atom character pack, to post-processing folder, to then the post-processing folder, so Atom assets, Atom character pack, post-processing, I don't know why it's there twice. Then we're going to go to the editor, to the property drawers, or property drawer, and then we're going to look at the MinDrawer CS, and I'm going to open that up in my Visual Studio Code, and we're just going to do a short little bit of editing to this that will fix the problem. And here it is for everybody. Maybe they'll see that at Unity and fix Atom and make it all available to us again, but this fixes it. There's a problem that it's not clear what the version of Unity post-processing is trying to call with the MinDrawer. So we need to go in and just simply add a couple of lines. We're going to set a M attribute equal to the Unity engine dot post-processing dot min attribute. And this will go through, and every time that we see in here where it's referencing the min attribute, we need to just simply change that to M attribute. So they're on, we added this on line 3, and then we're going to make this change on line 7 to M attribute, then line 12 to M attribute, and then one more place. I gotta spot it. They're on line 12. We gotta change it twice on line 12, from min attribute to M attribute. And this fixes the problem with it not being able to correctly determine which min attributes being used, whether it's from post-processing or the post-processing engine, and that will solve the problem with this. So we just simply go to File and Save, and that usually takes care of our errors. The other error that I sometimes get, and it depends on whether you're running on a Windows system or a Macintosh system, it happens differently between the two systems. Some are able to handle it, some are not. But if you go back to your post-processing editor utilities, or utils, the curve editor sometimes has a problem with some of the problems, and it's just a matter of going through and finding obsolete events. The repaint is obsolete, which was on line 379 of my file. 379, and it should be capitalized, and this is fixed. So the Windows version works fine. The Macintosh version has to be updated. There's a couple of obsolete references on the Windows download of the Atom tool set for the curve editor, and if you go through and just simply update them in the curve editor, that'll take care of it. I got all of this detailed on my blog on myvrprofessor.com. If you go look at part 2 of making cinema or making movies with this, then everything works really great. Okay, so we've got that fixed. Nothing needs to be changed in the curve editor, so we'll go ahead and close that, and you just simply let it recompile, and everything should be good from that. Isn't that nice? Everything's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, leave the extra things in here, but it's primarily the main camera we're going to be worried about. Let's get started on creating some things. So let's create a plane, so 3D object and then plane. That'll be our base environment that we're going to walk around on inside the environment. Where's my camera at? Okay, right there in the middle. I'm going to pull that out a little bit so that we can see what's happening. That's part of my problem. Its rotation is off. So we'll play with the camera more here in just a minute. I'm going to actually be using the Cinemachine camera, so it doesn't really make a lot of difference as we jump further into the project. Okay, so we've got our plane set in the environment. I don't want the directional light, so I'm going to delete that. And I want to put in a point light into my scene. I'm going to pull that forward a little bit and up inside the scene. Again, go down here, pull it up a little bit more. There we go. So that we get some neat reflectivity off of that. Over here in the inspector, I'm looking at the light. It's set to a point light. I want its shadow type to be soft shadows inside the scene. And that looks good. Good. Okay, so we've got that set. Do remember that you can play with the light's color if you want to make it more of a red color or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and leave it white for this project so that now it's slightly red, but that's okay. And we're ready to go with that. So let's add some interesting things to happen inside the scene. We're going to create a simple cube inside the environment. Pull that up a little bit so that it's sitting in the scene. There we go. And I'm going to transform that a little bit, make it more of a wall. There we go. And raise it back up. In our assets, we can go ahead and add a material. So down here in my assets folder, I'm going to create a new material. So just right click on it, select create, and then material, and I'm going to call this one red. So there's my red material, and we can change it up here in our inspector, change that to red. So let's add another cube. Need to pull that up just a little bit more so that it's actually sitting on my plane. Okay. And if you're not happy with the red not showing, which I'm not, you can go over to lighting. If lighting's not an option in your scene right now, you can go to Window, Rendering, Lighting Settings, and that'll open a new window. I use lighting all the time, so I like to have it right there. We're going to turn off real-time global illumination to just help our system better handle what's happening inside the environment. Instead, I'm going to use the mixed lighting, and then I'm going to go tell it to generate lighting. And as you can see there, it generated. Of course, there's not a lot happening inside this scene, so it did it really fast. And there's now my first object in the scene, and I've got a red wall. All I did was click on generate lighting, and it showed everything nice and quick. Let's go ahead and add a couple more cubes. So I'll click on cube and click on duplicate, and there's one, and let's have one more. And let's add a couple more materials. So I'm right clicking on assets again, create material. Let's make a blue material and a green material. Create material, green. There we go. And go to blue. Back here to inspector, change this to a blue color. And there's my first one. And then do the same thing with green. Inspector, green, and drag that on. There we go. So now we suddenly have 3 panels in the environment. Yay, we're moving right along. Okay, so we've got our material added, we've got our colors set. Okay, let's get them a little more emissive. So I'm going to select all 3 cubes here. Just select the first one, hold down on Shift or Control, and then click on the other cubes. In the inspector for all of these cubes, I want under the mesh renderer, the lighting, I want them to contribute to global illumination. And light maps should be what's selected. And now they're going to be more reflective inside the system. We've already got our... No, we don't. We're ready then, and if you're not happy with that, again, you can do a generate lighting, see what's happening with it. It'll bake real quick inside your system. If you've got auto generate on, it could dramatically slow down your system. I recommend turning that off and then just simply click on generate lighting whenever you need to see an update to what's happening inside your scene. So if you wanted to see what the impact is of the lighting hitting your object, there it is. It's reflecting off that real nice. Okay, so we've got our 3 objects inside the scene, and let's work with our Adam character. So in my project assets, I'm going to go to Adam's character pack and select Adam, find Adam in the environment, and drag him into my scene. And there we have Adam. Hello, Adam. And I'm going to rotate Adam. So I'm going to have him walk across the scene here in just a few minutes and add his animation to the whole thing. Do make sure you're saving occasionally. Unity has been known to occasionally crash. There we go. And Adam's already casting a shadow. Doesn't that look awesome? Okay, great. We're moving right along with this. First of all, if you've got lighting selected in your panel, make sure that you are using the progressive GPU to do your light mapping. It makes a huge difference in the processing. It offloads the light mapping to your awesome graphics card instead of making your CPU do that. So do take advantage of the progressive GPU. That will improve the performance on your system considerably. So let's add a light map real quick. Alright, to add your first light map, add game object, light probe group. It's not actually a light map, but it's for helping the light do the calculations inside your scene and to handle our reflectivity. So you're going to have to move around a fair bit to get this lined up correctly in the environment. I want it on the red cube. There we go. And we're real close to it. And pull it forward just a little bit. And up. There we go. We could make it a little larger. To enlarge the size of the reflectivity, click on the Edit Light Probes, and then you can expand it to a larger object inside the environment, and we don't need to do too much to that. That's pretty close to how I want it to be. And there we go. And once you've got the first one, we're going to put a light probe over each of the cubes so that as Adam walks by it, it'll reflect properly. Once you've got the first one set, you can hit Control D and then copy it, your second light probe group, and then shift that over to the blue area. And we'll do the same thing again. Our environment, and oops, there's my D, and Control D again, and copy that over to the green area. And now we're going to have a lot better reflectivity of as Adam walks by each one of these objects. Finally, let's add another game object for lighting to handle the reflection probe. There's our reflection probe, and that tends to be way off. So every time I've added it, it always comes in a really weird location. Get that lined up for our environment. As you can see, it's way to the back too. So this will help with handle the reflections as the light is bouncing off of each of the cubes, and hopefully it'll reflect then a little bit better off of Adam. Okay, so that went a lot faster than I thought it would. Good, we're doing still fine on time. We'll do a generate here real quick, and now we should start getting a little bit better reflectivity inside of our environment. All right, we've got light probes added. We've got a reflection cube. If I went through that too quickly, don't hesitate to go over to my VR Professor, where I go through all of these step by step to make sure that we've got everything added inside your environment. Yeah, we've got everything set up the way it needs to be for our inspector and contribute to global illumination. Good, everything's set correctly. We've got Adam now inside of our environment. We've got him set, so let's start working on getting an animation going inside the environment. Now to do this, we're going to need a timeline, and I want the timeline associated with Adam. So the first thing that we need to do is add the timeline. Go to Window, Sequencing, Timeline, and it's going to ask you to create a timeline for Adam. So click on Create. Now by default, it's going to try and do it under the Adam Character Pack Adam. I recommend doing that in Assets and maybe even creating its own folder for timelines. It just makes it a lot easier, especially if you start working with a lot of different timelines inside your environment. And let's save Adam to the timeline. Pull that down here by your project or your console so that you can see what's happening inside your environment, and that will help a lot. So in our timeline with Adam selected, we're going to right click inside the timeline area here and click on Track Offsets and then Apply Scene Offsets. This is going to force the new animations that you apply to keep the scene settings that you've already configured, such as Adam's location and orientation, where we've got him forced to walk across the scene towards towards the left-hand side of the stage. That will make it much easier to apply to that. Now let's get Adam walking. So again, I'm going to right click inside this, and I want to click on Add from Animation Clip, and then it's going to list all the different animations that are available to you. This is why we added the default playable. It adds a lot of additional animations that are set to the humanoid character. But we're going to start with just simply Adam's walk to begin with. And now we have an Adam walk inside the scene. As you can see, he's already changed. And let's see what happens. Took it a second to compile and get everything ready. There he goes, and he's walking off camera. Good. Everything's working. Adam is now walking. Yay! So let's change the camera area just a little bit so that we can see more of the scene. We're going to do some more work with the camera here in just a few minutes, but for the time being, I want to be able to see as Adam is moving along that timeline. Now, back to our Adam. You can see Adam's walking here. We can drag this if we want him to walk some more inside the scene and hit the play button. There he goes. He's walking right along. Excellent. Now let's say we wanted Adam to turn. So I'm going to add another animation clip, and I want the humanoid walk left. And we'll click on that and add that to it. Now, one of the really cool things about the animation tools that you can do in this is you can blend this by dragging it over. So the more I blend this, the more it's going to affect Adam, or the more gentle this will take place. So if we click on play now, Adam should turn to the walk to the left as it hits that animation there. Okay, now did you see that? Something, well, obviously you should have saw that. Something went horribly wrong. The problem was that the animation went back to the point of origin rather than matching whatever the offset was from the previous clip. So if you right click on humanoid walk left and click on the match offsets to previous clip, then oops, gotta turn off the play, match offsets to previous clip, then we see Adam turn to the left. Now you can see my scrub here, scroll in a little bit here, Adam is coming in and turning to the left. So we can extend that some more if we would like. Keep him going to the left. And there he is. He's going to the left. Isn't that cool? So we got some great animation now taking place with this. You probably noticed there's a ton of different animation clips. You've got crouch and fall and all kinds of different things that can happen inside of the animation. And then you've also got the incredible collection from Carnegie Mellon. They've done a ton of motion capture, so you can pull those in, any of the FBX motion captures, and apply that to Adam or any humanoid character as well, and be able to apply that to your scene. Okay, I'm starting to run short on time here, but there's a couple things I just got to show you before we actually do our render of our Adam walking across the scene. First of all, let's add a camera. Now, I'm not talking about the main camera. I'm talking about a Cinemachine camera. Cinemachine cameras allow you to do a lot more with the environment. We're going to go in here and go to the timeline, right-click inside the timeline, and we're going to add a Cinemachine track. and that's going to be used for keeping track of the camera inside the scene, so it works with Adam inside of our environment. So I'm going to drag Adam here back to his start point, and then we're going to right click on the track with the Cinemachine that we just added, and we're going to add Cinemachine Shot, and we're going to line this up with Adam. Now we can have as many cameras as we want, which allows us to jump around, make a much more realistic television or movie type thing, you know, where the scenes are, each camera movement's about the count of 3 to 5, but we're going to have our Cinemachine Shot here. We need to add a camera to it, so let's add a virtual camera. Go back here to Adam and add that camera. Okay. Drag that out. Good. Okay, so we got our Cinemachine camera here. We're going to need to adjust the camera. Now, actually, the Cinemachine camera is your main camera. It's just simply every time we add a new virtual camera, it makes it a smart camera, and that it gives us a lot more capabilities with our camera inside the environment. So we've got Adam here in our Cinemachine camera, and okay, with the Cinemachine Shot selected, then it's going to show in the inspector. It needs to create a virtual camera to go along with this, so we're going to click on Create. And now we've created a virtual camera to use with this. Now this is actually using the main camera. It's made it smart though for use with the virtual machine. We want the camera to follow Adam. So if you look at this Cinemachine virtual camera area, you've got a follow and a look at. We want the camera to follow Adam, so I'm going to drag Adam over here to follow. And then we want the camera to look at Adam as well. And we can get more specific. Let's say I want it to actually look at Adam's head. Oops, I deselected. Let's adjust the aim just a little bit. So we'll adjust the Y position so it's looking up a little more until we're happy with that. That's looking a little better, and probably need to adjust the Y bias. That's looking a little better, and now, and this is showing our scene that the camera is going to record. So now if we hit play, the camera is following Adam as he walks through the scene. There we go. That's looking good. Okay, there's still a lot more we could do to tweak that, but as I said, I'm running really short on time for this presentation. So the next thing that we need to do is actually do the recording. To get to the recorder, you need to go to Window, General, Recorder, and Recorder Window. And now we have our recorder window. Yay! We're going to add a new recorder from our movie, and then we need to set our playback rate. We want a constant playback rate, which is a great thing that, you know, if your system runs into a slowdown or it's not able to keep up with all the processing, it will set a constant frame rate of playback and record the frames as they're ready. You do need to set what your target frame rate is. So if you're trying to produce something that is traditional film, you can set that to film 24. If you're going for a newer high speed or one of the newer HD settings or 4K settings, then you can do that as well. I'm just going to leave mine at 30 frames per second right now because that's very YouTube friendly. Specify what your file type is going to be for the export, and then what are you going to name your movie. You can do multiple iterations and use wildcards as part of this in your project. This is going to save to my default folder where my project is under its own folder called Recordings, and then it should be ready to go. It would also capture audio if audio was added to it. You could add your own music to the system, make a nice little dance video if you want to. But this is now ready to go, so we can say start recording. And it is now recording Adam walking through my scene. And while it's a short little video, it works. I should have told it to exit play mode when it was done recording. Otherwise, if you don't hit stop recording, it'll keep recording forever. But that's not a problem with that. We hit that pretty quick, so it should be short. So now if I go to the folder with my project, so here's my make movie, I go to recordings, and there's the movie that it recorded, all in an MP4, 8 seconds long, and a little over 2 megabytes in size. So there we go. In the course of a very short period of time, we created a simple animation. I did this entire process in less than 2 hours with all the downloads and updates and waiting on builds to happen. Of course, your presentation has been much shorter than that on this project, but in the course of 2 hours, we made a very, very simple movie. There's tons more that we could do with this project. Check out my material on the website for my VR Professor. I'll be posting more tutorials on how to do these kinds of cool things with Unity for making movies on my YouTube channel. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure showing this material to you. Hope you found it very beneficial. And if you've got questions, be sure to leave it in the comments below. If you're part of the Computer Simulation and Game Conference, I'll be part of the live chat following this.